8 popular bread products went through Florida state testing. 6 came back with detectable glyphosate. 2 came back below the laboratory's method detection limit. But the biggest mistake would be assuming those 3 facts already tell you which loaf is safe, which loaf is dangerous, and what you should buy. Bread is one of the most ordinary foods in America. It sits on kitchen counters, goes into school lunches, and appears at breakfast before most people have fully opened their eyes. That is exactly why these results deserve a closer look. In February 2026, the Florida Department of Health reported that it tested 8 bread products from 5 nationally available brands. The numbers sound dramatic. But before anyone throws a loaf into the trash, we need to separate 3 very different questions. What did the laboratory detect? What does that result actually mean? And what should a shopper do with the information? This is not a panic list. It is a product investigation. We are going to count through every tested loaf, starting with the lowest detected result and moving toward the highest. Then we will examine the 2 products that came back as non-detects. Along the way, we will compare the laboratory findings with the promises printed on the packages. We also checked current government guidance and the brand's own product information, because a number without context can mislead just as easily as a beautiful package. First, a quick translation of the numbers. The results were reported in parts per billion, or ppb. 1 part per billion is an extremely small concentration, but small does not automatically mean irrelevant, and detected does not automatically mean dangerous. In the United States, the Environmental Protection Agency establishes pesticide tolerances for specific food commodities. The Food and Drug Administration monitors the food supply and can act when a residue exceeds an applicable tolerance, or when no tolerance exists. Florida's public release gave consumers the test results, but it did not provide a complete bread-specific dietary risk assessment for every age group, serving size, or long-term eating pattern. So our rule is simple. A detection is evidence that a substance was found in that tested sample. It is not by itself proof that the entire brand is unsafe. And a non-detect does not mean absolute zero. It means the amount, if present, was below the method's detection limit. That distinction matters because online videos often collapse detection, exposure, and danger into one frightening word. They are not the same thing. Now, number 6 among the products with a detected result. Dave's Killer Bread, 21 whole grains and seeds. The reported level was 10.38 parts per billion. This loaf is marketed around organic whole grains, seeds, fiber, and a hearty ingredient profile. The company's current product information lists organic whole wheat, water, organic cane sugar, and a large blend of grains and seeds. Here is the surprise. An organic label does not promise that a finished product will contain absolutely no detectable residue from every prohibited substance. Organic rules govern how food is produced and handled. Contamination can still happen through drift from neighboring fields, shared equipment, transportation, or other points in the supply chain. That does not make the organic label meaningless. It means the label answers a different question from a laboratory residue test. Number 5. Dave's Killer Bread. White bread done right. The reported level was 11.85 parts per billion. This product is positioned as a more thoughtful version of white bread, with organic flours and several grains. Its result was close to the other Dave's loaf and far below the 4 higher detections we will examine next. But remember, this was a snapshot of specific products. It was not a lifetime score for the brand. And the next result jumps sharply. Number 4. Nature's Own Perfectly Crafted White. Florida reported 132.34 parts per billion. This is where the pattern changes. The number is more than 10 times the result reported for either Dave's product. Nature's Own describes perfectly crafted white as thick-sliced, soft, artisan-style bread. The company says its newer recipe uses a shorter ingredient list and contains no artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives. Those claims may all be accurate, and they still do not answer the residue question. This is one of the most important lessons in the entire investigation. A clean-looking ingredient list tells you what was intentionally used to make the product. A laboratory test can look for substances that may not appear as ingredients at all. The ingredient panel and the lab report are not competitors. They are 2 different windows into the same product. One tells you the recipe. The other tells you what was detected in the sample. And neither should be stretched beyond what it can prove. A shorter ingredient list does not guarantee lower pesticide residue. A higher residue result does not prove that the listed ingredients are false. It means shoppers need both kinds of information before making a judgment. This is also where package psychology enters the story. Words such as perfectly crafted, artisan style, and simpler ingredients create a sense of care. They may describe genuine product choices, but they can also lead shoppers to assume qualities the package never explicitly promised. That mental shortcut is called a health halo. One positive impression spills over into areas the shopper has not actually verified. Number 3, Wonder Bread Classic White. The reported result was 173.19 parts per billion. Wonder Bread is not trying to look like a dense, rustic, seed-covered health loaf. Its appeal is familiarity, softness, and the classic white bread experience. That makes this result psychologically interesting. People often assume the biggest surprises will come from products that make the biggest health promises. But testing does not care whether a package looks premium, nostalgic, organic, or inexpensive. The laboratory measures the sample placed in front of it. At the same time, we should not turn one number into a theatrical verdict. Florida tested one listed product, not every Wonder Bread variety, every production plant, every store, or every batch sold across the country. The right headline is not, Wonder Bread is poison. The accurate statement is this. Glyphosate was detected at 173.19 parts per billion in the tested sample of Wonder Bread Classic White. That wording may sound less sensational, but it is far more useful. Now compare the 4 results we have seen so far. 10.38, 11.85, 132.34, 173.19. The gap is substantial. It raises a reasonable question. Why were the levels so different? The public results do not establish a single cause. Possible differences could involve the grain supply, agricultural practices, sourcing regions, harvest timing, processing, or variation between lots. But, without traceability records and repeated testing, choosing one explanation would be speculation. This is where product transparency becomes valuable. A strong company response would not simply say that a product complies with the law. It would explain what was tested, how often the company tests, whether results vary by supplier, and what steps are taken when an unexpected residue appears. Compliance matters, but consumer confidence is built with context. There are still 2 detected products above Wonder Bread, and they are the 2 highest results in Florida's published bread table. One is sold around comfort and softness. The other uses a name that creates a healthier impression. The difference between them is less than 1 part per billion. Number 2, Nature's Own Butter Bread. The reported result was 190.23 parts per billion. Butter bread is built around comfort. The name suggests richness, softness, and a familiar flavor. It does not sound like a science product, and most shoppers would never expect to connect it with a pesticide residue discussion. That is precisely why everyday products deserve scrutiny. The foods we question least are often the foods we buy most automatically. Nature's Own says it has been simplifying recipes and removing artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives from its breads. That may improve the ingredient profile. But again, formulation and agricultural residue are separate issues. A company can shorten a recipe and still need to examine what arrives with the grain. Now the highest detected result in Florida's published table. Sara Lee honey wheat. 191.04 parts per billion. The difference between Sara Lee honey wheat and Nature's Own butter bread was only 0.81 parts per billion. In practical terms, these 2 samples were nearly tied at the top of this particular test. The phrase honey wheat creates what marketers call a health halo. Honey sounds natural. Wheat sounds wholesome. The package may use warm colors, grain imagery, and language that feels more nutritious than classic white bread. But a product name is not a laboratory result, and it is not a complete nutrition analysis. Wheat bread also does not automatically mean that whole wheat flour is the first ingredient. A shopper has to read the current package and check the ingredient order, fiber, added sugars, sodium, and serving size. This does not mean Sara Lee honey wheat should be declared dangerous based on one public result. It means the test found the highest concentration in that sample set. Consumers deserve to know that fact without exaggeration and without concealment. Now for the 2 products marked with an asterisk in Florida's table. Sara Lee Artisano White, and Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse Hardy White. Both were reported below the method detection limit. That is good news for those specific samples, but the most accurate phrase is non-detect in this test. Not guaranteed glyphosate-free forever. Laboratories have detection limits. Different methods may have different sensitivities. Agricultural ingredients can vary by crop, supplier, region, season, and production lot. One clean result is meaningful. It is not a permanent shield around a brand. The same standard must apply in both directions. One detection should not condemn every loaf a company will ever make. One non-detect should not certify every loaf it will ever sell. There is another reason this matters. Consumers naturally want a simple winner and a simple loser. That makes a video easier to watch, but it can make a shopping decision less accurate. A responsible verdict needs repeated testing, clear methods, lot information, and context about exposure. Without those pieces, the strongest conclusion is narrower than the most dramatic headline. So what did this ranking actually reveal? 6 of 8 tested products had detectable glyphosate. The 2 Dave's Killer bread products had the lowest detections in the published table. Nature's Own Perfectly Crafted, White, and Wonder Bread. Classic White were substantially higher. Nature's Own Butter Bread and Sara Lee Honey Wheat were the highest, separated by less than 1 part per billion. Sara Lee Artisano White and Pepperidge Farm Farmhouse Hardy White were below the method detection limit. Those are the findings. Now we need to turn them into a smarter shopping system, because a list without a method is forgotten the moment you enter the next grocery aisle. Here is the 5-step bread cart check. Step 1. Separate marketing words from measurable facts. Words like artisan, natural, crafted, wholesome, multigrain, and honey can shape how a product feels. They do not automatically tell you the percentage of whole grain, the amount of fiber, the residue level, or the value per serving. Turn the package around. Step 2. Check the first ingredient. If your goal is a whole grain bread, look for whole wheat flour, or another whole grain near the beginning of the list. Wheat flour may simply mean refined flour made from wheat. The front of the bag creates the impression. The ingredient order shows the formulation. Step 3. Compare the nutrition panel using the same serving size. Look at fiber, added sugars, sodium, protein, and calories per slice. A bread with more seeds may also have a larger and heavier slice, so compare equal weights when possible. A higher price does not automatically mean better nutritional value. A lower price does not automatically mean a poor product. Step 4. Understand what certifications do and do not promise. Organic certification is meaningful. It restricts production methods and prohibited inputs. But USDA guidance recognizes that contamination can occur through drift, shared equipment, accidental application, or transportation. Non-GMO, no artificial preservatives, and organic are different claims. None of them should be treated as a universal guarantee about every possible residue. Step 5. Reward transparency. Look for companies that publish current labels, explain sourcing, respond clearly to test results, and provide lot-specific or repeated third-party testing when possible. The future of smart shopping is not memorizing a permanent blacklist. It is learning how to ask better questions. Here is the truth receipt for this investigation. 8 products tested, 5 national brands, 6 detections, 2 non-detects. Lowest published detection, 10.38 parts per billion. Highest published detection, 191.04 parts per billion. And the most important limitation, this was a small product snapshot, not a complete national survey of every bread on the market. So here is our final cart verdict. The Florida results justify attention and follow-up testing. They do not justify claiming that every loaf with a detection is dangerous. They do not justify calling the 2 non-detect products permanently safe. And they do not justify pretending that an organic or premium package settles the question before the product is tested. For the 2 products with non-detect results, the verdict is this. Encouraging result. Verify the current label and future testing. For the 2 Dave's products with the lowest detections, the verdict is this. Lower in this test, but still detected. For the 4 products above 100 parts per billion, the verdict is this: compare carefully and ask the manufacturer for more transparency and repeated data. The real issue is not that bread has suddenly become a forbidden food. The real issue is that shoppers are expected to make daily decisions using packaging designed to persuade them. Meanwhile, the most useful information is often scattered across labels, government reports, company websites, and laboratory tables. That is why this channel exists. We do not tell you to fear every product. We show you what was promised, what was found, what the evidence can prove, and what it cannot. Before your next loaf reaches the cart, check 3 things: the current label, the serving size comparison, and whether the brand provides meaningful transparency beyond marketing language. Now tell us in the comments, which bread brand is usually in your home? And which product should we investigate next? Subscribe to What You're Really Buying. The package makes the promise. We check the reality.